Hello friends, welcome to the world of Java. My name is Sneha and this channel is to make Java an easy language so that everybody and anybody can easily code in Java. So today in this video, we're going to discuss a very important and hot topic these days, that is REST APIs. So you must be heard about REST API while creating your microservice or any web applications or any Android application. So REST APIs are widely used these days. So we will know like why REST API is getting used so much, how they are making the life of a developer or any application very easy, right? So these are the topics which we'll cover in this video. So first important thing is API. Before knowing REST, we should know what is API. Then we'll know about REST. Then architect of REST, right? And then few REST concepts, key concepts, then little bit demo of web REST APIs. Okay, so let's start our journey. APIs. Okay, so let's start with API. So API stands for Application Programming Interface. Three important terms. So these are very fancy names, but if we understand it deeply, it it's just a simple term or a word. So it's just if I just explain you API in a simple layman language, I will say it's just a mechanism by which two software, like if these are my two softwares, so these two software communicate with each other through some mechanism, right? That mechanism is based on certain set of rules, so that is known as APIs. Simple. Okay, so we just stated like API stands for Application Programming Interface. So what is application? These two things, these two software are the application, and they are talking to each other based on certain rules, right? That is your interface. So that just explain what is API, right? So interface is just nothing, just a contract between two applications. Like if A application is there and B application is there, A is saying if you send me one, I will take it as hello, and B is saying if you send me two, I will send it. I'll just take it as bye, right? So there is certain rule between these two. So that rule or that contract between two is known as interface. Okay, that is simply API. Now we'll understand what is REST. So little bit history about REST first. So REST was originally coined by Roy Fielding, okay, which was also the inventor of HTTP protocol. Okay, so REST stands for Representational State Transfer. Three heavy terms, but we'll again make it simple. Okay, so REST is nothing, it's just an architectural design, right? That just state or establish few guidelines for creating or producing web services. So web services also known as APIs. Okay, so what is that? Let's understand all three terms one by one. So there are three terms in it: state, representational, and transfer. Okay, when we transfer states in some representational form, that is REST. Okay, now what is state? Okay, you must be asking like what is state? State means data, like any data that I want to expose to the outer world. That is my state. Like I have a employee I am an employee management system, okay, and I am giving you the service to store data through using my web services, or delete the data of employee, or update the data of employee. So I am that kind of software. Okay, so if you are using my service, so you are creating employee or updating employee or deleting employee, right? So that data, the employee itself is state. Now another term is representational. Representational means the format. So the format could be JSON, XML, HTML. So like data, the employee data I am representing as XML. So that is representational. Okay, that is representational state. Okay, now transfer. Transfer means again the same, carrying data between your between two parties. That is transfer. Okay, so it could be like between client to server, server to server. So any combination would be there, right? So if in short we understand REST, the REST means we are transferring a representational state from one party to another. Okay, got it? So let's move further. Now this is REST architect. So what is REST architect? REST architecture is very simple. We have a client, we have a server, and through request and response, both are communicating with each other, and there is certain format of your request and certain format of your response. Okay, so messages exchange in certain formats. Okay, so this is your REST architecture. Now we can understand it more deeply. Like in REST architect, we have seen request and response. So what is request? Request is any input given to your web service, right? It's called request, and any output you get back from the server is response. Now, another thing is message exchange format, right? So exchange format could be messages like request and response could be exchanged in any format like XML, JSON, HTML, any format could be there, right? Then we have two important parties, one is client, one is server. Now in our example, this is client, this is server, right? So client is also known as the consumer and the server is also known as the provider, right? Because this is the client, it is consuming the information, and this server is providing that information. Okay, so consumer or provider, or you can say client and server, right? So these are the four important terms if you talk about your REST architect. Now these are very important or very important points when we when we talk about REST. Okay, these are very important concepts. So we must understand these concepts, then we can easily, understand REST or easily create RESTful services, right? So first important term is resource. Okay, so resource is anything you want to expose to the outer world or anything you want to consume. So that is resource. Now let's take a simple example, right? In this mobile app, you must be having your weather app, right? So that application, when you click on that weather app, it just show you the data like the temperature of that region or the humidity of that region, right? So all the data, the temperature, the humidity, which you are fetching from some weather database or weather server, right? So all the data is known as resource. Now, another important term is URI. So URI stands for Uniform Resource Identifier. Now this is what? Now my weather app want to fetch the current temperature, right? So it must be calling some weather server or some weather database, right? Which should be exposing a web service, right? Which is returning the temperature of that particular region, and then my web app is retrieving that information and displaying it, right? So that information, the temperature must be lying or hosted on some server. So the address of that server is known as URI. So URI is also known as endpoint, or sometimes we call it path, right? So path of that resource, that is URI. Okay. Then we have sub resource. So another, like if we just model the relationship, like the first one is like the temperature and then region, then area. So we are further, you know, um, breaking it in smaller chunks further, right? So that is sub-resource. Okay. Now, another important concept is your HTTP methods. Okay. So in REST, we have certain HTTP methods through which we can uh, make or consume our APIs. Okay, our RESTful APIs. So these methods are already provided. We have to just use them according to our functionality or implementation. So these methods are, for example, get, post, put, delete, patch. Okay, so these are the methods. Now, in our example, if I take it like I want to fetch the temperature of my region, right? So I'm fetching. I just need to get the information from remote server, right? So for that, I will use the get method. I am just getting the information. So accordingly, like if I have to, put something or create something, so then in that case, I can use the post method. Okay. So all methods are there, and every method is having their, individual functionality. So we'll discuss all these things in detail in our upcoming videos. Okay. So for now, we can just understand for performing the basic CRUD operation. CRUD means create, read, update, and delete. Both for basic functionality which any application is doing, right? So for implementing those functionality, we have HTTP methods. Okay, corresponding HTTP methods. Okay, so now moving further, then we have status code, HTTP status code. Now, what is status code is in corresponding to any request. If I am sending any request to my remote server, so that server give a response back to me with some code also, right? So before reading the information, if I just get the code, through that also I can identify my request is executed successfully or not. And status code is also the part of our header. So we'll discuss all these things in detail in upcoming video, what is header, payloads and everything, right? For now, just understand like for every request we get certain code from the remote server, right? So those codes easily tell a developer like the request is successful or not. So through that also we can just display the output to the end consumer or client. Okay, so like if we get the response or status code in 200 series, that means my request is successful. If I get status code in 500 series, so that means I am getting some error from the remote server, right? So in this way, through status code, we can easily identify the execution status of our request. Okay, now these all are the theoretical part of REST, APIs, fundamental, key concept. Okay, let's see some example like what kind of the URI is there, what kind of response we are getting. So for our for demo purpose, let's just hit an request or URI on Chrome or browser and we'll see the response. Okay. Now this is my Chrome browser. Okay. So in this Chrome browser, I have just hit this URL, or you can say this URI. This is known as URL. Okay. So this is also known as the endpoint. See this one. So in this domain API weather.gov, this is my domain or the server where this web service is hosted. Okay, and the URI of this is points, and after that I am sending your longitude and latitude of that, right? So if I hit this request, I am getting this response. So again, we can hit it and we see the response, the same response we are getting. This is the get request. So this is a JSON format response which we are getting after hitting this request. So in this response, we are getting so many things like the city, the state, the distance, okay, and there are again, see, these are again some type, geometry, so many things are there. So this kind of response we are getting after hitting this URI. Okay. So if we want to hit it on our Postman. So Postman is nothing. It's a simple a tool through which we can test any API. Okay. So here again we are getting. I will get the same response over here also. But there are certain added on feature in Postman through which we can send the header information, or we can tweak the things, or we can add it if it's a post request, we can add the payload in that. So we have a lot more flexibility if we test our REST APIs through Postman. Okay. So previously Postman was the part of your Chrome extension. Now you can download it separately also and just log in and create your workspace, and you can test any application or any API over there. Okay, so this is my get. See here, these are all the HTTP methods. So in our example, we are using the get. Okay, and this is the send. If I hit on send, see, this is saying sending request, and this is the response. So this lower part, this is my response, and this is my header part. So we'll discuss all those things, header, the parts of different parts of your header, your payloads, your response structures, right? So all these things we will get to know in our further upcoming videos. So hope you guys like this video, and hope it just clear your REST concepts and make you easy to understand REST. And in our upcoming video, we'll understand more like the implementation of REST. So how we can create it using Jersey or JXRS, or by using Spring Boot. Okay. So keep looking for upcoming video. Stay tuned. Bye bye. Take care.